Oh, some great sounds there from those lovely chords. And didn't those sound nice, how the colours were changing? Hey everybody, welcome to Keyboard Skills Pro. And if you're wondering what I was doing there, well, I was using a variety of different chords, but I was using specifically something called rootless chords. So you want to learn a bit more? Let's head over to the keys, but before you do that, hit the subscribe button and let's explore this together now. Come with me, let's learn about rootless chords. Now what I'm messing around with here is the chords to a very popular song called Make You Feel My Love, or Feel My Love as I think the title is. Bob Dylan wrote this, and in recent years it was probably best recorded by Adele. And that sort of background that you hear there is very common of what we call piano ballad style. But as I said in the introduction, you know, if you've ever been through a shopping mall or a shopping centre, and you know sometimes on some of the levels there's a piano sitting there and people play along, and they sometimes put their phone up and they're, you know, and they do this. This is what they do. They go, and they play something they've heard in the charts by someone, and then they do this. And that's fine, but can you see it sounds a bit samey? It's all the same sound, and the way I tend to think of it is it sounds a bit like if you went into a restaurant and you said, right, I will have I'll have the leek and potato soup for starters, then for the main course I'll have a jacket potato with a side of French fries, and then for dessert I'll have potato cheesecake. God, that sounds horrible, doesn't it? But my point of the example there is that it's potato, 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 I suppose, at the end. In other words, it's all the same stuff. And the thing that makes food interesting is you have a different starter, a main, a dessert, maybe coffee at the end, and it makes the meal interesting. If it was the same thing, if you went around a friend's house and they did pasta and then another pasta dish and then something else, you'd be like, oh crikey, there's too much pasta. So it's the same with musical chords. Now those chords I was playing there were called root chords. Now a root chord, and we've covered this a little bit in music lessons before, is a chord that has the bottom note is the same name as the chord. So if I played it in that little improvisation there that we did, A minor, you can see there's a pattern to it. It's play, miss, play, miss, play. And the bottom note is an A. That makes it a root chord because the chord is labelled A minor and the bottom note is A, and that's why we call it a root chord. And in fact, root chords always follow this pattern, this shape. Play, miss, play, miss, play. And that's not just for minor chords, that can be for major chords, look. There you go, look, there's F major, G major, E flat major, okay? It's the same for diminished chords, okay? There's C diminished, look, okay? C sharp diminished, and again, it's the same pattern, look, play, miss, play, miss, play. So that's what we call a root chord. Now the thing is, if you use just root chords all the time, your background is going to be like that meal that your friend made, Potatoville, and this is what it sounds like. I mean, yeah, sure, we can, you know, we can mix it up with patterns. We could go something like that. But you see, after a while, it starts to sound too familiar, too samey. Now, there might be some musical applications where you want that sort of, I suppose, musical monotony. I don't know if you might call it that. But personally, I would like to mix that up with rootless chords. Okay, so let's go back to our example chord sequence. So I'm playing these all in root position. Look, F chord. I'm just doing a simple 4, F minor, da 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 da, D chord, do 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 do. Don't worry, I won't inflict my singing on you, gang. But anyway, there we go. Now, did you notice also I was moving around a lot? And that's because when you play a chord in its root position, the lowest note that letter is the same letter as in the chord. So a B flat chord has to have a B flat at the bottom. The problem is your root note is going to jump around, because if I start on a C chord, look, I could start down here, but then to go to the G chord, I've got to go all the way up here. And then I've got to jump to B flat, and then I've got to go down, look at this, look, big jumps to F. So there's a lot of effort going on there, and that's okay. But again, I keep going back to this and I keep saying it, it's too samey. It doesn't sound basically like a good background, you know, and we want to try and produce a much more professional sound. So let's put some rootless chords in. So what's a rootless chord? Well, a rootless chord is where you basically play the same 3 notes, but you move the root note to a different position. So let's take the Adele song. So I'm going to start with my C chord. So I'm going to start down here just on the middle C. Look, here we go. The first chord of Feel My Love is C bass note with a C chord. Okay, now if I then take the C off, I'm going to keep the other 2 notes, the E and the G. Look, move my fingers around, and they're still in the same position, but they're not going to be in a second, because as soon as I put the C on the top, look, this happens. Ooh, that sounds nice, doesn't it? That's a C chord, but it's now rootless. The C is no longer at the bottom. The middle note that we had before is now at the bottom. We call this in music theory an inversion. And this is in fact the first time that the note from the bottom has moved to the top. So we call this the first inversion. Now, what we then want to do is have a think about all the chords that are in the song that we're playing. So the next chord in the song is a G chord. So do 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 do. So if I'm here on my C chord, look, da 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 ba da da, I could just move the chord up a little bit. Look, G B D, da da da. Now listen to the difference. Look, let's do the root chords first. Dum da 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 dum bum. But hey, listen to it now, and let's start with a rootless C chord, the first inversion. So we're going to go from a rootless C chord to a root G chord. So we're mixing now 2 different flavours. So now our meal is 1 potato less, if you will. Here we go. Hey, that sounded good, didn't it, gang? So we've now blended 2 different flavours. Now the next chord in the song is a B flat chord. So if I'm here, look, I can go up to B flat, but let's take a look at the notes, look. So let's work out where we are. We've got G, B, D. Now, the D note is also inside the B flat chord, look. It's the middle note of the B flat, and it's the top note of the G chord. So we've got 1 note, look, that's in both chords. So if we're on a root chord, we now want to go ideally to perhaps a rootless chord. So what notes have we got in the B flat chord? B flat, D, and F. And so that, once again, that's the root chord. Look, play, miss, play, miss, play. So that's how we know it's a root chord. Bottom note is B flat. So that's how we know it's root. So if I'm here, I could go up to here. I could keep my D note, look. But why don't we keep the D note at the top? Because, hey, look, what's in the middle, look? A B. Well, that's great, isn't it? Look, I can just drop down to my B flat. So we've got the D from the middle at the top of the G chord. Okay, so that's good. The B flat I need is just there. So the only one we're missing is the F at the top. And, hey, look at this, look. Drop down the thumb, and there it is. So I can, instead of doing that to there, I think a better example is to go from there, and these 2 guys just drop down to there. And there it is, look, B flat, D, F. But this time, because it's the second note round, look, so root, B flat goes to the top first, and then move the bottom to the top again, F, B flat, D. we've got the second inversion. That's what that means. It's another version of a rootless chord. So this is the difference. Here's the root chords. B flat. Da da dum bum ba 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 bum bum. Now listen to it now with the mix going on. So C chord. Let's do here first inversion. Root chord G. Da dum dum. Look at this. Look. What? Drop down and. Now F chord. Look, I can drop my top notes down. Look, there you go. Look, F chord. Let's stay on the root chord. F minor. And let's drop these two down. First inversion C chord. Look, rootless chord. Da da da. D7. So D7 would be up here. Let's do the F sharp. Da da da. G7. F at the bottom. Look. Da da. And then down to C. So you see, it makes it really interesting, doesn't it? Now, what it does rely on, though, is having a really good knowledge of the three ways in which you can play three-note chords. So you need to practice and memorise not just a C chord like this in root position, but you need to memorise it in the first inversion and the second inversion. And you can see each time, look, it's the same three letters, C, E, G, but then it becomes E, G, C or G, C, E. Now, those of you who are watching this who play organ and keyboard, we already use rootless chords when we're playing with styles or on the organ, because the way we learn our chords, we use inversions to keep our hand in a static position. But of course on the organ, we're playing with the pedals, or the auto bass is playing the pedals or the style for us. So that means that we get used to rootless chords. But piano players, chords sometimes they come a little later in the learning. And of course, particularly if you always read music, then you maybe are playing chords, but you don't necessarily know that you are playing chords. But when people say, well, I'm actually going to play chords, you know, maybe to back a singer, for example, you have to be able to know all these variations. So make a point of when you learn a C chord, really learn the chord. Root, first, second. And then when you learn your G chord, root, first, second. And it's the first and the second inversions that are the rootless chords. So it makes intros and endings and songs. There's the second inversion. Look at that, it drops down to the root chord. G, B flat in root, F in first inversion. Then I can stay on the inversion, look, F minor. And your backings will sound really good. Give it a try, everybody. Thanks for watching, folks. My name is Tom Horton. Check out my website for music books. And if you've enjoyed this video and like to support Keyboard Skills Pro and help the channel grow, you can join as a YouTube member, or you can visit patreon.com/Keyboard Skills Pro, where as well as supporting the channel, you can also get access to bonus PDFs, bonus lesson videos, and lots of other content as well. So I hope you'll consider supporting the channel. And in the meantime, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have fun learning about rootless chords. And as I say, if you'd like to learn more about this, there is actually a bonus PDF which you can get for this on patreon.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you very soon. Bye-bye.